Hey everyone, and welcome to skillcapped's tier list and rundown for patch 10.7. We have a lot to get into. There are changes to runes, we're seeing buffs to two of the most controversial champions, Riven and Collie, and the new reworked Wukong will be receiving a nerf. Speaking of which, what do you guys think of the new Wukong? Was the rework a success? Does Riot need to just move a few numbers around, or is his kit fundamentally broken? Let us know in the comment section below, as we'd love to hear from you. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon to keep up to date with the meta and start taking your game to the next level. As always, this tier list and rundown was created by a team of challenger players from multiple regions and cross-referenced with up-to-date statistics to give you the most accurate information possible. So let's jump straight into it with a buff to the Phase Rush rune. Melee champions will have their movement speed increased by 10% more for a total of 40 to 60%. Phase Rush is a rune that is almost exclusively taken on ranged champions, so this buff is definitely needed. That being said, there aren't too many melee champions that can make use of this rune, instead preferring the healing and damage from Conqueror or the burst from Electrocute. One champion though that stands out as the exception is Darius, as a popular build on him is to take Flash, Ghost, and Phase Rush to run down opponents in lane for first blood. With Darius being such a powerful and popular pick at the moment, you may want to be on the lookout for more players switching to that Phase Rush build. We're also seeing a nerf to the conditioning rune this patch. For those unaware, conditioning is found in the resolve tree, and after 10 minutes gives you 9 bonus armor and magic resistance and increases your total resistances by 5%. This will now kick in after 12 minutes instead of 10, 2 minutes later than before. This change may seem a bit random, as there aren't that many champions that take this rune. In fact, if you do the research, nearly all pro laners will opt into bone plating or second wind over conditioning for the stronger presence in lane. The only champions that are taking the conditioning rune at the moment are tank junglers running aftershock, such as Zac and Nunu. One notable exception is Graves with his new Death Stance build, but overall this is a small nerf that only impacts a very niche group of champions. Before we move on to the tier list, I quickly want to mention that if you're not signed up to skillcapped, then you're missing out big time. We just hit over 800 guides on our website, which are the best on the internet. With challenger tailored courses we've spent hundreds of hours perfecting, you're sure to improve. We're so confident in this that you can see what rank we think you'll hit before signing up for the long-term plan. If you don't hit that rank while actively using skillcapped, then you'll be eligible to claim a full refund, so there's literally no risk. Alright, flying into the island that is top lane, we have some nerfs to the newly reworked Wukong. Upon release, Riot actually shot this monkey into space, as his win rate hit astronomical heights, peaking at 57%. As a response, they immediately implemented hotfix nerfs, reducing his health regeneration and bonuses from his Stone Skin passive, along with increasing the mana cost on his W and reducing the damage from his clone. This did reduce his win rate, but only down to 55%, the highest of all top laners. This is likely why they're following up with more nerfs to the Monkey King this patch. His passive Stone Skin will be having its armor reduced from 5 to 11 per level to 5 to 9 per level. This equates to 20 less armor at level 18 with max stacks. His E damage is also being reduced from 82 to 40 to 72 to 10. This nerf is significant, as many Wukong players will max his E first, especially when playing him in the jungle. Overall, there was no doubt that Wukong was overpowered on release, but with hotfix nerfs, along with follow-up nerfs this patch, we're confident he's been lowered into the S tier. Speaking of follow-up nerfs, Garen will be having his passive cooldown increased from 7 to 8 seconds and his magic resist per level lowered from 1.25 to 0.75. Having his passive cooldown increased will cause him to heal less in the laning phase, and the nerf to his MR equates to 9 less magic resist at level 18. Keep in mind, Garen was nerfed last patch, which saw his win rate drop from 54% to 52%. In addition to this, his win rate is severely impacted by what elo you play him in. The lower you go, the higher it climbs. For example, last patch his win rate sat at 54% in Silver elo, while only being 51% in Diamond elo. This helps explain the differing opinions in the community, with many players saying he's overpowered, while others say that he's mediocre. In a way, this can be true depending on your rank. For these reasons, we'll be leaving Garen in the A tier for this patch. Moving on to the buffs, where Nasus is having his W range increased from 600 to 700 and his E armor shred from 15 to 35 to 25 to 45%. The W range increase will definitely help combat his biggest weakness, which is being kited, and the armor shred bonus will help bolster his biggest strength, which is stat checking you. We think these buffs will help resurrect Nasus from the depths of the D tier into the C tier. Moving on, Riven mains will rejoice while the rest of the server winces as her base health regen is being increased from 7 to 8.5. This equates to an extra 18 health regained every minute, so not exactly a game-breaking buff, but helpful nonetheless. Riven just hasn't been the same ever since the nerf to her E abilities cooldown back on patch 9.10. It's actually crazy to think that it used to be on a 6-second cooldown at max rank. No wonder she was so overpowered for so long. Historically, her strength has always been tied to her abilities cooldowns, and so despite this minor buff, we'll be keeping her in the A tier. Collie is also receiving a buff. Her ultimate perfect execution is having its cooldown lowered. This is most prominent in the early game, where with 1 point in it, it will be 20 seconds lower. Although this will help her land more kills and escape in the early laning phase, we don't think it will be enough to put her above the C tier. Moving on to the tier list, we have some big changes. Darius is dropping out of the OP bracket for the first time into the S tier. It looks like the nerfs on the previous patch were too big for him to handle, resulting in his win rate dropping from 54 to 51%. The top lane meta overall is in a weird spot as there's currently 2 items battling for power, Blade of the Rune King and Death's Dance. We're seeing a huge rise in Blade of the Rune King being built, and champions who rely on auto attacks in their trading pattern, such as Set, massively benefiting from it. This is due to the buff to the item's passive damage for melee champions on patch 10.5. At the same time, we're seeing a rise in the new Death's Dance being built due to its buff on patch 10.6. The champions you want to be on the lookout for are the ones that can build both of these items. Most notably, Kled and Jax both already had high win rates prior to these itemization changes in the top lane, and both work wonderfully with either item. Now, if you find yourself stuck in low elo as a top laner, that would be gold and below, we recommend Tryndamere, Jax, and Mordekaiser. Jax is our new low elo recommendation this patch. He just has so much solo carry potential through his split pushing, and as previously mentioned, the new item changes benefit him greatly. For bans, we recommend Wukong, Set, and Mordekaiser. Even with the nerfs to Wukong, he had over a 50% pick ban rate on the previous patch. He's still an S tier champion, and players will only continue getting better at him, so he's definitely a priority ban. Sweeping into the jungle, we have an interesting buff to Xin Zhao. His passive heal is being nearly doubled from 10 to 68 per level to 10 to 112 per level. That is a pretty massive number increase. Yes, it won't impact his early game strength as much, but is a boost to his mid game and a massive boost to his late game. Xin Zhao sits at an average win rate of 50% at the moment, but what's notable is how his win rate just plummets in the late game, which is what this buff will help with. Additionally, remember that Phase Rush is getting a buff, and it wasn't too long ago that Phase Rush was the staple rune on Xin Zhao before Hail of Blades took over, so maybe we'll see a resurgence of that build. We think this buff is powerful enough to increase Xin Zhao from the B tier to the A tier. Moving on, Ivern of all champions will be receiving a massive buff this patch, increasing his E damage from 60 to 140 to 70 to 170, and his R cooldown being reduced from 160 to 140 at rank 1. The E damage buff is insane, considering that's what he maxes first, and looks to hit max cooldown reduction to spam it. Additionally, the reduction to his R cooldown is more important than you might realize, considering that you always want 100% uptime on Daisy. Ivern is already sitting at a decent win rate of 51%, so we have no doubt this will raise him from the B tier into the A tier. Rolling into the tier list, not that much has changed since last patch, with the same champions being in the OP category. However, there is one champion you really want to be paying attention to this patch, and that's Graves. He received buffs on patch 10.5, which saw his win rate jump from 50 to 51%. Then on the very next patch, there were buffs to Death's Dance along with a bug fix to Rapid Fire Cannon on him. A new build has since emerged, running Fleet Footwork and building Black Cleaver, Death's Dance, and Phantom Dancer. This makes you practically unkillable while still outputting damage, giving you tremendous carry potential. Now, if you find yourself stuck in Elo hell as a jungler, then we recommend Warwick, Kha'Zix, and Master Yi. We just want to take a moment and highlight how great of a champion Warwick is right now. His win rate sits at 53% while still being one of the most beginner-friendly champions to learn jungling with. His high sustain makes clearing a breeze, his passive helps improve your map awareness by marking low health enemies, and he has one of the strongest 1v1s, meaning you don't have to be scared of early jungle skirmishes over the scuttle. For bans, we recommend Echo, Wukong, and Olaf. Wukong really is a must ban at the moment due to him being picked in 3 different roles: top, jungle, and mid. This practically guarantees you'll face him in nearly every one of your games, so you can't really go wrong with removing him in Champ Select. Diving into the mid lane, we have some pretty significant nerfs. Talon is having his W damage lowered on both the initial portion as well as the return damage. This is huge as it greatly affects his abilities to wave clear, and one of his biggest strengths was the ability to clear the minion wave extremely fast to then roam. In many ways, this is a double nerf as it also affects the damage he deals to champions, and as an assassin, one-shotting the opponent is quite an impactful part of his kit. For these reasons, we'll be dropping Talon from the S tier into the A tier. Nocturne is also receiving some nerfs, with his health regeneration being lowered from 8.5 to 7, and his magic resist per level lowered from 1.25 to 0.75. You may be surprised to find these Nocturne changes in the mid section instead of the jungle, but he actually has a 54% win rate in mid lane compared to a 50% in the jungle. These nerfs equate to 18 less health regen every minute and 9 less MR at level 18. Unlike in Talon's case, these nerfs don't directly impact the core strength of his playstyle, pushing into then roaming with his ultimate. For these reasons, we'll be keeping Nocturne in the S tier. Moving on to the buffs, Corki is having his package direct hit dot duration increased from 1.5 to 2 seconds. Corki is currently sitting at a 48% win rate in the mid lane, and this is a very small buff. Keep in mind, there were way bigger buffs to his ultimate on patch 10.3, and that did almost nothing to help his win rate. So it's safe to say that Corki will be staying in the C tier for now. Galio will also be seeing a buff, with his ultimate now granting allies in the area a magic shield for 5 seconds based on his W ability Shield of Durand, which scales with maximum HP. This is a difficult one to predict because of how situational the buff is. He'll still be just as weak when facing team compositions with a lot of attack damage. However, this is a strong buff for when he faces team comps with heavy ability power. Due to this inconsistency, we'll be leaving him in the C tier, but keep in mind, into the right AP comp, he could be a B tier champion. Jumping into the tier list, not that much has changed for mid lane. You'll find Diana, Echo, Vladimir, Kassadin, and Fizz taking the top spots. However, one champion to watch out for is Katarina. Her win rate has been steadily increasing over the past several patches, peaking at 53%. What's interesting though is that she has one of the highest average win rates for players that have mastered the champion at 61%. All of this while having the 4th highest pick rate in mid lane at 8.5%. The reason we mention her pick rate is that often champions with higher pick rates have their win rates dragged down due to so many inexperienced players piloting them. A high average win rate that's trending upwards, one of the highest win rates for players that master her, all while being picked so often, she's definitely stronger than most people realize. Now, if you're stuck in low elo in mid lane, then we recommend playing Kassadin, Fizz, and Annie. I just want to highlight how absurd Kassadin's win rate by game length is. If you can make it to your late game build, then you have a 78% chance of winning the game. To put that into perspective, Vladimir, who is another late game carry, only peaks at 54%. With the difficulty low elo players have at ending games, there's really no one else on the same level of late game carry potential as Kassadin. As for the bans, we recommend Kassadin, Diana, and Echo. All 3 are some of the most powerful picks on the patch, while also having some of the highest pick rates. Kiting into the AD carry position, we have some buffs to Kai'Sa. The cooldown on her E ability is being reduced from 16 to 14 to 16 to 12. Kai'Sa is a weird one where her stats don't necessarily reflect her strength, at least according to most challenger players. Her win rate sits at a low 47%, but our analysts agree that she's still an A tier champion. Having 2 seconds off her max rank E is a decent buff, and so we'll be keeping her in the A tier for now. For the tier list, not too much has changed at the top, with Misfortune, Cassiopeia, and Senna in the OP category. However, that doesn't mean there haven't been changes elsewhere. We've seen a massive spike in Vayne, Callista, and Twitch. It's funny how the meta works. Despite no buffs directly to the champions themselves, past nerfs to stronger AD carries such as Senna and Aphelios have given them enough breathing room to rise. Bane is the most notable of the three, sitting at a 52% average win rate, 59% for players that master her, and a 14% pick rate. For low elo players, we recommend Miss Fortune, Caitlyn, and Lucian. Now, if you haven't been using Miss Fortune to climb, then you've been missing out. She's one of the strongest AD carries for a while now, while also having one of the lower skill floors. A fantastic beginner champion with challenger level power, what's not to love? For bans, we recommend Miss Fortune, Senna, and Caitlyn. As we mentioned, Miss Fortune is too powerful, while being found in 19% of all games, so she's a priority ban. Senna can be played in both AD carry and support positions, so banning her effectively removes her from both roles. And Caitlyn is an oppressive lane bully that is extremely safe and found in 18% of all games. Engaging into support, we don't have any buffs or nerfs this patch, and for that reason the tier list has remained relatively the same, with the trifecta of engaged tanks Nautilus, Leona, and Blitzcrank taking up the OP category. That being said, there has been a stray cat stalking around the Rift by the name of Yuumi that has found herself in the S tier. It seems that previous buffs on patch 10.3 may have gone too far. If you check the top of the solo queue ladders, you'll find a ton of the best players duo queuing together, with one of them locking in Yuumi. They usually combine her with a late game scaling champion such as Graves jungle or Kassadin mid. Keep in mind that Yuumi's W ability will give her anchor flat adaptive force with a percentage bonus on top of this. For example, this would give Kassadin and Yuumi a flat 20 AP bonus, along with 20% of Kassadin's total ability power. So it's not just Yuumi's healing, her Q damage, the slow, the ultimate, and the fact that she can't be targeted, but also how much she passively increases her anchored target's damage. So despite her win rate only sitting at around 50%, those in the know have been sneakily stealing LP from the rest of us. For low elo, we recommend Blitzcrank, Bard, and Pyke. These three champions offer the most solo carry potential from the support position. For bans, we of course have Nautilus, Leona, and Blitzcrank, but if you find yourself falling victim to the new Yuumi strategies, then by all means ban her. We don't blame you if you do. Okay, for the section you've really all been waiting for, the new skins. There are two new skin lines coming to the Rift, starting with the cosplay skin line. Fury Horn, Veigar, Pengu, Tristana, and Pajama Guardian Urgot will be blessing our eyes at a price point of 1350 RP each. The theme being that Veigar and Tristana are cosplaying Little Legends from TFT, while Urgot is a Star Guardian superfan. From playful to serious, we have the World Breaker skin line. Malzahar, Maokai, and Sion will be receiving new World Breaker skins, following a color scheme of green, blue, and red at 1350 RP each. So what's your favorite skin this patch? Mine has to be Star Guardian Urgot, as when he impales an enemy, he then shreds them alive and their blood turns into a literal rainbow. Alright, we here at skillcapped put a ton of work into our new tier list, and the best way for you to show your love and support is to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video. Remember, the content you find on our YouTube channel is just a taste of the hyper improvement platform you'll find on our website. If you're serious about improving and want to rank up, there's no better time than now to go to skillcapped.com, link in the description below. I'm Hexadecimal signing off, and as always, good luck and have fun on Summoner's Rift.